Hello, I'm William Gallagher, and this is the 58 Keys Script Club. That's a book club, but about scripts. You could listen to me infuse. That would be really good. I'd enjoy that. Nice to have a chat, but you could just ignore me. Go read the scripts. Link in the description. Although, this time, the script is Arthur C. Clarke and Stanley Kubrick's screenplay for 2001, A Space Odyssey. And, okay, normally, you and I will only ever talk about scripts as you can actually get. There's no point otherwise. And you can. I mean, there it is, 2001. And we'll talk about scripts that are great. This isn't. Not as a read. I mean, just no. But it is great, I think, for writers. It's fascinating how it shows how far a film can go from its original screenplay. And it's a bit sobering in how, at least in this one case, thank God it went so far from the original. I think there's a whole lesson in here. Apparently, right, Clarke would write some scenes, Kubrick would pop off and film them, and then they decide, yeah, no, doesn't work, let's do something else. All writing requires redrafting, but I think very little of it requires entire film crews, production schedules and celluloid just to try things out and reject things that will never be seen. I mean, okay, you think in deleted scenes, and there are always deleted scenes, there are always moments where cutting something that was shot improves a movie, the pacing, the rhythm, all sorts of reasons. But there's a claim that Kubrick got so much footage just to have a go that if you ran it all, it would last 200 times longer than the final movie. Writing and shooting to have a play about, well, it says to me you're spending someone else's money. I think we were pretty clear about that. But I think it's also at least a hint that there were some big egos involved here. Arthur C. Clarke, right, wrote some amazing novels, actually every one of which has something in there that makes you just want to stop reading. I mean, they're all science fiction. It's all schoolboy pompous. I mean, some of it's so good, but they all have passages about the effect of weightlessness on women's breasts. I mean, just really, at least his script for 2001 doesn't have that, and it's short. But it's really short. It's 65 pages long, and the movie runs 2 hours and 29 minutes. That's 149 minutes. So, I mean, obviously, immediately forget the rule of thumb about, 1 page of script equals 1 minute of film. That's out. In this case, it's about 1 page equals 2 1/3 minutes of, except, no. Film scripts in the 1960s, right? I mean, this came out in 68. Scripts of that era, they were verbose. They just were. And this is 65 pages of comparatively densely typed text. And on certain pages, it is like you're reading a novel, but then you are. I mean, I don't understand this, but incredibly, I recognise some of the descriptions in the script from their equivalent in Clarke's novel. And I said no one saw all of this extra footage, but Clarke always had an eye for a sale, so he did much later on publish a book collating all of his drafts. Here, buy the stuff I threw away because it was rubbish. I bought the book. But yeah, still, Clarke, ego. And you thought I meant Kubrick. Based on the verbosity and the recognisable phrases, I offer that 2001 the screenplay was probably written by Clarke on his own, not really co-written for Kubrick as it's credited. But Kubrick made the film, definitely, and he ripped the script apart. Those 65 pages contain a total of 15,313 words. And for comparison, 2010, the much later and very different sequel, that runs for a more normal 136 pages and has 28,395 words. Look at the detail. It's so useful. But of those 15,000 whatever words that Clarke wrote, just under 2,500 of them were dialogue for a narrator. All, or at least most of that, was shot, recorded, prepared, but not one single word of it remains in the finished film. Now, I mean, I don't like narrators anyway, unless they're narrators who are lying to us, but frankly, sorry, Clarke just was not that sophisticated. In this case, though, just as pure, the narration is unbearable in every level. Take a look at this one example. While I go make some tea and have a meal and take a nap, the narration is long, but it's up itself. And I feel pretty safe saying the film would not have been a hit if it had stayed. I actually think it would have been mocked, really, but who knows, the 60s were a different time. And I know I'm dissing Arthur C. Clarke a lot here, one of the most famous novelists of the 20th century. But since I've started, the man could not write dialogue. His novels, by the way, get criticised a lot for how he can't write characters. He tends to science fiction, you think he's great on ideas, rubbish on people. But this script is a famous novelist seemingly believing he can write in another form. And I strongly suspect he never bothered to read anybody else's screenplay for anything before typing the word narrator and then pasting in chunks of description from his draft novel. Well, retyping, it's before cut and paste, wasn't it? I can tell you how much narration was cut, but it's harder to say how much else was, to be as precise. I am certain that all of his atrocious dialogue between characters was cut. What I can't remember for sure is whether the dialogue that replaced it was any better. It's a long time since I saw the film. This is not a dialogue-heavy movie. And yeah, it's amazing, isn't it, that there is a quote from it that's still referred to all these years later. You know, they open the pod bay doors, Hal stuff, and I'm sorry, Dave, I'm afraid I can't do that. Neither line is in this available draft of the script, by the way. And instead, we have exchanges like this, where every character, it seems, begins a speech with, well... Look, 2001: A Space Odyssey, it's a visual film. That's a silly thing to say. I mean, its merits are in how it looks, I think. At the time it came out, it was considered mind-blowingly complex, and yeah, today that's embarrassing today because it's pretty simplistic. There are ideas in there that are good, I just think they're really simple. And if the narration had stayed in to point them out to us, it'd be really tedious ideas too. I know I'm a writer, okay, so I expect a screenplay to be the tone of the film as much as a technical blueprint for its production. But let's go totally different. Look at The Artist from 2011. That was practically a silent film, and yet its screenplay won multiple awards. Mind you, actually, so did 2001. Well, no, excuse me. 2001 was nominated for many screenwriting awards, and it didn't actually win any, but what it did do is it got recognition and it got commendations. I'm telling you, the 60s were a different world. If you like 2001, the movie, take a read of the script to see where it all started or where it had been going to go. I do suggest that it's also a good teachable moment for how to not write narration. I'm really against this script, aren't I? If I didn't think that the things that it does so badly are useful and interesting, and if it weren't also that it was the script to this revered classic of a movie, I wouldn't be talking to you about it. And you can see in my mind working now, I doubt I'd have finished reading it, actually. See if you enjoy it more. I dare you. Thanks for watching. Now take care of yourself, eh? Read more, but you're a writer. You also need, this is vital. You need to write, don't you? And I'll see you soon.